Welcome to my basement, where, as you can see, I've been pretty busy. Now, I haven't been able to put out as many woodworking videos as I would like recently, because I've been a little bit busy doing more rough construction. If you don't know, my background really is in construction, and that's what led me to woodworking. Well, I've been working on two projects lately. One of them was for my parents, who are moving to the area and wanted a big garage built. This is the garage, and as you can tell, it was a pretty big project and it took up most of my summer. Once that garage was done, I had time to come into my own house and work on a project here. That's the basement area. It started out a big open floor plan, and we thought we could do a little bit more with it. This part of the basement is the media room, if you can't tell, and we had been using it that way with this screen that we brought from our old house. The unfortunate thing about that, though, is that there wasn't much sound dampening going on, and if someone was watching a movie down here, you could hear it through the whole house. I always do a Lords of the Rings marathon during Christmas, and my wife got a little tired of hearing the orcs screaming. I created this YouTube channel, of course, to be about woodworking, and that's why I haven't filmed a whole lot of the construction process that got us to this particular point. Now, if I'm wrong about that and you're interested in construction as well, just leave a comment below, and I'll consider doing some videos that are a little bit more construction related. Fortunately, I'm now at the point where I can do some woodworking to get the final touches into the room to make it more comfortable and livable. And I'm going to be doing a series of videos for all the builds that I need to do, not just for this media room, but for the entire basement remodel. And I'm going to start with the problem we just talked about, which is the sound dampening that needs to go into a media room like this. So I hope you'll join me for this whole series of videos we're going to do for this remodel. But I think before we get started with the woodworking, I'll give you a brief little tour. You've seen the front of the media room, but I wanted to show you the back really quickly too, so that you could see that I added this platform right here so that you can have two different levels of seating while you're watching your movie. And here on the other side of the media room, I've added a bedroom and a rather large closet that attaches to that bedroom with openings on two different sides. The fireplace in this bedroom was something of an unexpected surprise, actually. When we took all of the sheetrock down, we found that this cavity was inside here, and it was actually already set up for a fireplace. There was venting coming down as well as a natural gas pipe. So it was natural that we put the fireplace in there. Whoever was building the house originally and probably intended to do that and just decided not to. Well, I completed the job for them. This closet had already been there, but I made a couple of modifications here as well. We're going to continue using it as a closet, but I figured if anyone ever wanted to use this as an apartment downstairs, they might want to have a washer and dryer too. So I added the hookups for that. There's a bedroom behind me here, and we think we're going to use that more as an exercise room now that we've added the new bedroom on the other side. There is another bedroom over here as well, which will stay as a bedroom. Both of those things are remaining largely untouched. And we did take this area that was already open space and leave at least a little open space still. I'm going to add a little kitchenette on this side and maybe have a game table where people can collect around over here. The last door I haven't talked about is just a closet space underneath the stairs. But the cool part is, after you duck under that closet, there's a little bit of an open space behind the stairs as well. I think that can be a fun play area for kids. And I had another idea about it as well. And here we are back to the front of the media room. Now that area behind the stairway that had a little closet area that we could use, well, that's back here behind the corner of this wall as well. So I decided to add in this little hidden door. It doesn't go all the way up because I have the speakers going in, but back behind me here is a nice little storage area or a fun little hiding area. And I'm going to see what I can do to hide this door into the design of the wall. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet, but I think we'll figure it out in this video. So that's about it for the tour. I did want to point out the few things that I've done for sound dampening reasons before the sheetrock goes in though. Now you may notice that there's two different kinds of insulation in here. One is the standard fiberglass insulation. It's what I found in the walls before I took everything down. I did make a modification. These were 2x4 walls that were furring up against the foundation, and they had R11 for the most part, in a few places, R13 insulation inside there. Well, I added some 2x2s to those studs that were already here, and I made them more like 2x6 walls. So I was able to take the insulation out and use a thicker insulation. That's good for energy efficiency in the house and for the sound dampening. This blue stuff here is more of an eco-friendly option. It's made from recycled denim. And I didn't want to use that on the outside walls because I'm not quite sure how it really handles with moisture. But on the inside walls, I thought it would do just fine. So I put this blue denim on all of the inside walls just to give a little bit more sound absorption through the wall so it doesn't make its way to the rest of the house. The last thing that I've done before the sheetrock goes in is that I've actually sealed the bottom of the walls that I've put in here on the external side as well as the internal walls. The reason for that is it just gives one more air gap to keep the sound from being able to penetrate quite as easily from one wall to the other. And that's about all I can show you right now for the sound dampening that we've done so far. I think it's time to go off to the shop. But before we do that, I think we also need some sheetrock. Like that, drywall. And I don't know if you can tell on the video, but it got an awful lot more echoey inside of here, which is why we're doing all of this for this video. But before I can put the sound dampening wall panels on, I've got to protect the wall a little bit. That means I need to get out the spray gun and put a sock on my head. Let's go. So let's take a minute to talk about materials. I've said I'm putting up acoustic wall panels to dampen the sound. Well, this is what they're made out of. This right here is called P.E.T. felt. And from what I understand, it's made out of recycled plastic bottles put together. That's what's going to provide the sound dampening. It would look a little weird though to just have a black wall. So a lot of people tend to take this felt and then put on top of it some wooden strips. Now this stuff isn't particularly cheap. The felt by itself, which is 1/2 inch thick in a 4x8 sheet, is about $200. And if you buy these with the wood installed on top of it, it can get really pricey. If you found it for a lot less than that, there's a pretty good chance it's a knockoff and might not be doing that sound dampening, or maybe the wood isn't actually wood. In my case, the wood that I'm using is cherry, and I put a little bit of a stain on it and a coat of polyurethane as well. I'm a woodworker. I wanted to do that work to put together these strips myself, but also I just like having real wood there. Most of the stuff you buy out there is just part of a board with a thin veneer on top. Before showing you how to put it all together, I think I'll show you how it was that I actually made these strips. The wood on the paneling is going to come from this stock right here. And this is 6'4" cherry. And that means that it's 1.25 inches thick, but that it's rough cut. So I'm going to be working it down now to 1.25 inches. And that 1.25 inch thickness on these boards is actually going to translate into 1.25 inches of width on the panels themselves. I'll cut it on the table saw here to maybe just slightly over 1/2 inch so I can sand or plane it down to exactly 1/2 inch and get it up on that panel so that it's 1/2 inch in depth, 1.25 inches across, and 1/2 inch between each of the slats. These are really long boards and I want to be able to work with just the size I need, so the first step is to cut them down, and then I can take them through the jointer and the planer to get them down to the desired thickness. Jointing a square edge is particularly important in this case because that's the front of what we're going to be looking at on the panel. And I'm not going to bore you with the sanding here, but realize that it is important to do this because pretty soon I'm going to be cutting this down so that this side is just going to be 1/2 inch thickness. It's much easier to sand it as a full board. Nothing goes to waste here in the shop. I am going through the full process also with the cut-offs from the very first cut you saw. You'll see where I can use those in the panels in a little bit. So I figure this is about 1/3 of what I'm going to need to do my 13-foot wall. And The next step is to sand down the edges a little bit, and I'm going to spare you that. I just wanted to make sure I point out one thing in case you ever want to try this yourself. When you're sanding these down, getting the edges straight is the obvious part about it, but there are also the corners. And there's a couple of reasons to go and take at a very light grit. I go about 180 or so, to go and just quickly smooth off those corners just a little bit. One, you don't want people to rub their hands across your wall and inadvertently get a paper cut. But the other one is that finishes just don't like sharp edges. And so if you just take that briefly off, you're going to get just enough on there that those finishes can stick. So I'm going to get to that, and it's going to take me a little while, but we'll have a good product in the end. All right, so I started with the smaller pieces here, the sanding for that first, and there's a reason for that. These vertical ones are going to be really simple just to attach, but I have some things to work around on the walls, including the speakers, which have these grills on them, and the wall outlets, the electrical outlets, which have these plates on it. So from these smaller stock here, I'm going to have to make some boxes that go around these particular things before I can apply the finish. I'll get to doing that, then I'll sand down the rest of these, then we'll get the finish on there. These boxes are just simple frames with mitered corners, so once you cut one end at a 45-degree angle and you measure out the other, you only need to do it once, because you can use that piece as a template for all of the other cuts. All you need is your finger to spread the glue and some painter's tape to hold it all together while the glue sets up, and you got a nice little frame. The assembly process itself is pretty straightforward. The first thing that I have to do is figure out where the panel goes on the wall, and then I just have to cut out the things that I need to cut out for the wall outlets, for the speakers, for the hidden door. Once I do that, I can put my frames in there, and all you have to do is put in a few staples to hold it in place. The strips are a little bit harder because when you cut them on the table saw into the strips themselves, it releases some of the energy that's inside of the wood, holding it nice and straight. And so now they're a bit bendy. So I had to actually go out and cut a few guides that I can put down here at regular intervals to make sure that it stays straight all the way through the process. I did this on a laser cutter, but you could easily make these little guides using a piece of plywood and your table saw. It took a little experimenting, but I found that the best way to mark the panels was with a graphite pencil. They then cut pretty easily with a standard razor. To avoid having to undo any work in the future, I first dry fit the panels up on the wall to make sure that my cuts lined up just right. Unfortunately, in just a minute, you're going to see how this comes back to haunt me. To assemble the first panel, I laid all the vertical strips out on top. Once they were in place, I just reached underneath and stapled the two ends of each one of the vertical slats. I could then flip it over and use a guide to know where to put all the rest of the staples. Now I do apologize for all these backside shots, but there was a wall in the way and I needed to look at that wall while I put it in place. To hold the panel to the wall, I'm using some black screws screwed through the felt into studs, and I'm using a level to make sure that I'm getting it nice and plumb. Panel number 2 went into place with no problem at all, and maybe you can guess what music I'm listening to as I do this. Panel number 3, though, was another story, and it's a good thing I'm listening to soothing classical music as I deal with this. Well, I would like to say that I do this for educational purposes, but that's really not true. If you notice here, I've got the hole cut out for the speaker on the left side of this panel, and it needs to be on the right side of the panel, which means when I went to dry fit it after I cut that hole out to make sure that it lined up just right with the speaker itself, I took it back and laid it down upside down when I actually put these slats onto it. They should be on the other side. And it's not the end of the world. One way to fix this would be to take all the staples out and just redo it on the other side. But that'd be a lot of work. And I think what I'm going to do instead, because this is pretty much symmetric, the amount of space on this slat and on this slat on the two sides of the speaker are pretty much symmetric. That means I should be able to fit it in if I just cut it down one of the slats here, put this section in, and then this section on the other side of it. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do now. At least you get to learn a way to fix a mistake. So I ended up making 2 vertical cuts to cut the panel into 3 pieces. Fortunately, all is well that ends well, and these pieces work just fine. I was careful to make sure that the separation between each of the slats stayed the same all the way across the wall. This is the final piece, and you can see how my technique had settled down. To save myself $200, this last piece is actually made of 2 in-cut pieces. I get those 2 pieces lined up perfectly by being very careful on the very first outside slat. By this point I had stopped tacking the 2 ends onto the felt, I had just laid them all out together. Then I positioned the ends of each one using a tape measure and staple it in from there. Once those ends are in place, I can just move along and staple everything in. And it was pretty satisfying to get that final full piece in. Well, there you have it. The wall is now all done. I think it looks pretty good. It was quite a bit of work doing all of these strips and getting them in place, but the effort is worth it in the end. Now, I am not done with all the soundproofing work that I'm going to be doing inside of this particular room, but that's it for now. This was a priority so that we could start using this room, even while the construction is still going on, and I have other builds to do before I get to the rest of that soundproofing work. If you do want to see the rest of that sound dampening work and the other carpentry that I'm going to do in this room and the rest of the remodel, I'd encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Then you'll see them pop up as they arrive. I'm looking forward to all the work. I hope you enjoy the ride with me. See you there.